My name is Van Gilmer. I've been here in the Chicago area for 13 years, but I was born in Greensboro, North Carolina. So much of my life was spent in North Carolina and during segregation. So first 20 years of my life were segregated. I was in a black community. I went to a black church. All my life was with black people. But it's also the place where the sit-ins began. The sit-ins in America, where 4 black students at North Carolina A&T State University went downtown to sit at the lunch counter to just to show that there is an inequality here in the country that most people hadn't recognized at that point. Not even black people. We just accepted that that was the way things were going to be. 2 of those students, Ezel and David, were in high school with me. I was a senior and they were freshmen. We couldn't believe that after nothing else had happened for so long, that these 4 guys went downtown and made this statement that had to follow with a lot of us going downtown, sitting at the lunch counter. We just sat. We were arrested. It was a very hard time. In Greensboro, Greensboro, North Carolina, I did not have the experience of interacting with white people. It was a time when I was in college. I went to a historically black school, and only after I graduated that I found myself working with all white employees, the only black person. That was a first for me. That was in Washington, D.C. area. That was working for the government, for the Navy Department. And it's something that I think many African Americans of my age experienced. A life without white people, and then a life adjusting to living, working, and being with other people. I'll spring forward to coming to Chicago. Now, I've lived here for 13 years, and I live in the north side of Chicago. And I knew that on the south side of Chicago, there were more people of color. On the north side, there are almost no people of color. And if you know Chicago, the Great Migration started on the south side, the south and the west, but the south side. So it still remains. There's a large number of African Americans on the south side. Then there's the city itself. And if you ever were African American and wanted to try to escape, you might try moving a little north. For a long while, I didn't go to the south side. But once I went, I got a feel for how America is now. And America is this way in every large city and a lot of the places of America you will find this separation. Black people here, white people here. The way I act, the way I interact are all dependent on what my environment is. I often say to people now, you can't really understand what it would feel like to be a black man walking most everywhere where you see nobody else brown. And that's what I've experienced. as I've lived in the North Shore area. I'm generally the only person of color. And when I see someone else who is of color, it's just a few people here or there. Now, I never would have thought when I was in Greensboro, North Carolina, that I would make such a drastic change from a place where I only lived in a community of people my color to moving to the nation's capital and beginning to assimilate with a wider variety of people and adjusting to what is the American dream, one human family. And then coming to the North Shore and experiencing now again a place where there are a lot of people who are not of color. And I don't find it to be a place that is where people are mean. The people are nice. It's just that we assimilate the way we grew up. And we could discriminate without knowing we're discriminating. People may not know what my experience is because I learned to act in such a way that I didn't make others feel uncomfortable. Now, that is something that I think might happen to a lot of people who are African American, who begin to assimilate, but they find they're acting more like everybody else rather than everybody else acting like them.